So I'm going to go ahead and talk to you about the verb tener. Tener means to have, and it's an irregular verb. And what that means is that when we were first learning to conjugate, when we have a verb, like if I write out here, tener. Okay. Oops. Well, if I have the verb tener, what we were told to do initially if we were going to conjugate it was to take off the ER, which would leave me with 10. And then I'm supposed to add the endings, teno, tenes, tene, because these are the endings. These are the endings that you would add to an ER verb. So that's what I'm supposed to do. That's what I told you guys to do with verbs, okay? If a verb doesn't fit this pattern, like tener, okay, if a verb doesn't fit this pattern, it's called irregular. So if you look over here at tener, I'm not doing that. I'm not just taking off the ending and then adding. I am adding the endings. I am adding the ER endings. You'll see an O, an ES, an E, an E, an EMOS. Oops. An EIS. An EN. And an EN down here. Okay, so the endings that I've added are the same ones that I would add for any ER verb. However, what I'm doing in the stem is what's different. There's some changes that are happening in the stem. Now, a lot of times when there's a change in the stem, we call it a stem changing verb. But usually they have a similar pattern as well. And even though tener kind of copies a stem changing pattern, because it doesn't have this, because you'll notice in the two, all that you do differently is that E that you have there is changing to an IE before you're adding your ending, and it happened everywhere. Right? It happened for tú, usted, él, ella. It happened for ustedes, ellos, ellas. It didn't happen for nosotros and vosotros. And it didn't happen for yo. Now, most stem changers, that stem change is going to happen. It's going to happen everywhere but for nosotros and vosotros. But because the stem change doesn't happen in yo, that's what makes tener a little bit different from a regular stem changer. So basically, you're just going to have to memorize how to spell tener. So for the yo, it's tengo. For tú, it's tienes. For usted, tiene. For él and ella, tiene. For nosotros, tenemos. For vosotros, tenéis. For ustedes, tienen. And for ellos, ellas, tienen. So let's do a little bit of practice with tener. Okay, so here's our spellings again of tener. We're going to complete the sentence with the following, We're going to complete the sentences in the following paragraphs with the appropriate verb appropriate form of the verb tener in the present tense. So it says, Hola, me llamo Alejandro. Hi, my name's Alejandro. Soy de Bolivia, pero vivo en Miami con mis padres. So soy de Bolivia, I'm from Bolivia, but I live in Miami with my parents. Ellos blank una casa muy grande. Well, we know we're going to be using tener. So who, and tener means to have. Who has this casa muy grande? Ellos, wait a minute. Okay, so if it's ellos, we just want to pick the spelling of tener that matches ellos. And so you're basically, if it's a statement, you're going to look before your blank for your subject, and then you're going to match the spelling of tener that goes with your subject. So if it's ellos who have the house, if we go down here, here's ellos, right? So we're going to pick tienen. Okay, una casa muy grande. Yo no blank clases hoy porque es domingo. So who doesn't have class today? It's going to be I. I don't have class today, right? So then we go down here, the tener that goes with yo is tengo. So then the answer that I want to put right here is tengo. Okay. Porque es domingo. Blank que trabajar hoy en el restaurante El Coquí. Now here they didn't mention anybody. So if you look right here, it's empty. There's no subject. So if that happens, you usually keep the same subject. You're going to keep the same subject that you had in the sentence, the prior sentence, which was yo. So we're going to keep yo again. And so the answer for number 3 is also going to be, tengo. Okay. Mi nombre es Verónica. My name is Veronica. Hoy es lunes. Mi amigo José y yo blank clases hoy en la universidad. So today is Monday. Who has classes today in the university? Mi amigo José y yo. Okay, that's for whom we're going to conjugate. Well, mi amigo José y yo is not in our chart, but we can think of my friend José and I as we, because you could either say my friends and I are going to have classes today at the university, or we. Okay, and so then if you look at nosotros, okay, then you're picking tenemos. Okay. La universidad blank muchos estudiantes. So what has a lot of students? La universidad. And now you'll notice that la universidad isn't down here either, but remember we ascribe gender to everything, so we want to think of la universidad as she. She has a lot of students. Now you don't end up actually writing she, but that's what you think in your head. So if you think ella, then you would see that tiene is the spelling of tener that you would need here. Okay. Tiene muchos estudiantes y es muy grande. Mi amiga Sandra solamente blank 2 clases hoy. So who only has 2 classes today? Mi amiga Sandra, which again is going to be ella, she, because Sandra is not in our chart. We have to think of it that way. And if we look down here at she, the verb we want is, the spelling of the verb we want is tiene. Okay. ¿Cuántas clases blank tú los lunes? Okay, here we have a question, and whenever you have a question, you're going to look for your subject after the blank. So the person who actually, because it comes after the verb and the blank represents the verb, so it's you that we want to know about, and so then the spelling of tener that goes with you is tienes. So that's what we're going to put here. ¿Cuántas clases tienes tú los lunes? Okay. Hola, mi nombre es Paco. Hi, my name's Paco. Soy de España, pero vivo en un apartamento en Nueva York. Hoy es lunes y blank mucho trabajo para mis clases. So again, in this sentence, there's no subject. So we have to go back to the one before, and he says, soy. And we know soy goes with yo, vivo ends in o, which goes with yo. So the subject that we would want is still going to be yo. Okay, so then if you pick yo, then what you need is tengo. Mi universidad blank un gimnasio. So what has a gym is la universidad, which again we think of universidad as ella. And if we look at ella, then we should use tiene. Okay. Y trabajo allí también hoy. So here, again, we've got no subject. Well, actually, this is a question. So it says blank, vosotros clases o trabajo los lunes. So it's asking if you all have classes or work on Thursdays. So you should pick tenéis. Because remember, when it's a question, your subject comes after the verb.